Teach me how to pray.
Hey everyone, it's Wildman. I hope you are doing well, and in today's video we are going to be taking a look at a video called Valle Verde, a very disturbing piece of lost media that claims to be found footage that was found decades later in the year 2019. However, the footage is from back in 1997. The story goes that a user named Alluvium was documenting his findings on a tape that he found in the woods, saying that he didn't find the VHS right away, but rather he found this open area in the woods where this small object was on the ground. And upon further investigation into this little grove in the woods, he found a small statue of a woman just sitting on the ground. And after sheer curiosity after seeing this, he decided to see if there was anything buried underneath the statue, which I do not recommend you do that if you find a creepy thing in the woods. But regardless, Alluvium decided to dig underneath the earth, and what he found was a metal box containing a single tape, which featured this very strange game called Valle Verde. The rest of the channel has been dedicated to posting the recordings that were found on this tape, and the game Valle Verde appears to have been released back in the mid-90s, as the gameplay is from the PlayStation 1, which released back in 1994. Which, speaking of the PlayStation 1, I've been doing a lot of PlayStation 1 gaming actually on my Vita, and it has been the most amazing experience of my life, I think. Also, I know a lot of people hate it, but Rayman 1 is honestly the best PlayStation 1 game. I love it so much, I've played it so many times. But yeah, before we begin, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as well as liking the video, and as always, commenting bruh, because all these things do really help me out a lot. So if you could do them, that would make my day. And yeah, let's get into it. So the game Valle Verde is set in a fictional world where you, the player, are just landing in this new island where you're about to start your new life. The game is honestly very reminiscent of Animal Crossing, but instead of getting to your island via a car or a train, you're getting there via blimp. There's even the same kind of cutscene you would get in older Animal Crossing games, where someone on the train would ask you some personality questions that would determine your island and cosmetic appearance. But rather than Rover asking you these questions, it's a character named Roddy who interrogates you. He says, quote, "I've never seen you here before. Oh, so you are new. Welcome to Valle Verde. It's always good to receive visitors. Speaking of which, can I take a look at your papers?" Papers? No papers, huh? You're lucky you came across a prepared inspector. I'll provide you a provisional document, but you must register it once we arrive. Roddy then asks you to tell you a bit about yourself, and we learn the age of the person playing the game. Age 10, birthday January 1st. We're then shown the map of Valle Verde, and you get to pick your destination on this massive island. The player selects the outer island called Debug Shima. However, this location doesn't seem like it's supposed to be a part of the game, as all the other icons have images on them except for this one, not to mention the strange name. Regardless though, the location is selected and it begins the game. The main character, who we'll be calling PD since I don't want to call him Test Number 5 the entire time, and also I've been watching a lot of Severance. PD couldn't be more thrilled to finally arrive, but first you must authenticate your documents. PD then meets with a character named Bobson, who is sleeping on the job when you first meet him. Bobson, however, is unable to authenticate your documents and directs you to go and see Foxo in the town hall. And at this point in the game, things seem pretty smooth and honestly seem like a fun kids game. But in the description of the video it states, "Despite seeming so, because apparently it's a game for kids, in fact I thought it was the first time I saw it, but there are things that don't add up. I will upload the rest once I properly review it. If by any chance you have some information about this game or the tape itself, please write it down in the comments. I've been reviewing the first 20 minutes of the footage almost frame by frame these last months to avoid the risk of uploading something potentially illegal. I've seen things appear and disappear in various parts of the video, and I had to review the entire thing to make sure. As far as I know, everything is relatively normal, but I have to clarify, this video is not suitable for children. And going back into the gameplay is slow and all you can really do is move forward. And the art style is really reminding me of Pac-Man World 2, which is a game that's pretty dark in itself. Because in Pac-Man World 2, you start the game and Pac-Man's entire family has just been kidnapped in some pretty horrific ways. Especially this scene with Ms. Pac-Man, who someone just breaks into her home and takes her. I remember being really freaked out by this scene as a kid, and also all of this happens on Pac-Man's birthday, so it's pretty messed up premise. But going back into the game, you end up meeting with the mayor Foxo, who doesn't explicitly say that he's the mayor, but he does say that he's the one that has led this town for 20 years. Foxo tells Petey that while they work on his authentication, he can have these credentials to go around town. Foxo then sets him up with a little rundown shack that he can stay in the meanwhile. But before you can settle in, Foxo says he wants to introduce you to someone in town, and that person is another player. But then it turns out that there are even more players in this game than you thought. Each player has this horrific icon where their profile should be displayed, and it leads to this very unnerving segment. And perhaps the creepiest player is Matias, who opposed to the other players, it looks like he's still alive and is currently trying to escape. And after this disturbing segment, Foxo's personality gets a little questionable as well, as he tells you about the statue in the middle of town that is dedicated to him, which is also made of solid gold. And then he says something very strange, quote, "The Smiling One has given me absolute authority over this area. It's mine. I own it. Remember that in the next election." And without skipping a beat, Foxo tells you that there are some jobs that you can take, one in robotics or one in the museum. Then sending you on your way with 100 coins to start you off, but before you can leave, this happens. Foxo leaving you with a debt that not even Tom Nook could compete with. After this, Petey leaves town and makes his way into the forest, despite being told by Foxo to get a job. In this land, there are an abundance of massive cakes decorating the forest, but what is odd is that there are noises that can be heard while you're passing by these desserts. And listening to it closer, it sounds like the sounds of eating, more specifically someone consuming meat. And things only continue to get even more strange as the next area that PT enters is one full of statues with single eyeballs. There are even eyes in the sky, all of which are watching PT. Continuing even further, there is a room full of gold and priceless art on display. PT ends up picking up the stash of coins, and when you look at it in your inventory, it says, "You took it from the mayor's office, didn't you?" And so PT ends up dropping the money, most likely because the kid playing the game is super freaked out at this point and do anything to avoid these creepy encounters. But looking further into the room of gold, there is a painting depicting Jesus carrying the cross, assisted by Simon of Cyrene, which according to the Bible, Simon of Cyrene was the person that was witnessing Jesus carrying the cross to the location where he would be crucified. However, after being overcome by exhaustion on his journey to the location, Jesus was unable to carry the cross, and so a Roman soldier appointed a random bystander to help him carry it, and that person was Simon from Cyrene. And all of this is in the Christian lore book of the Bible. And as we get further into the game, the themes of Christianity really start coming out in some pretty dark ways. The next room that PD enters is empty. All that can be heard are the cries of an infant. Which there's always been the superstition that I've always been told as a kid that if you hear a baby crying from somewhere where you're completely alone and it doesn't seem like there would even be a baby there, it's most likely that it's a demon trying to deceive you into following it. When the player goes further into the room, a drop of blood falls on the ground, which leads to this very disturbing segment. The next room doesn't get much better either, as what we see are the silhouettes of previous players begging to be let free, however are completely trapped for the rest of time. All the while there's also this quote from Oppenheimer playing in the background, which makes things even more unsettling.
He's trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
When entering the next room, it's different from the others because you are able to escape it. And when you do, you enter what looks like the gates of heaven. And once you're through, a tranquil garden and a white cross greet you, PD believing he is free from the death, the torture, but it isn't long before PD is brought right back into town. And what's odd is that the game kind of just picks up as if nothing happened, as if PD moving through all of these treacherous rooms didn't exist. PD enters a store and is welcomed to the island, to which he's then offered a job that pays 10 coins. But PD refuses and finds himself encountering one of the other players named Matias. Which was the player that was trying to escape and seems to be the only remaining player that is still alive. PD and Matias' conversation goes as follows. "Are you with the agents? Can you hear me? Where's Chloe? What is happening? Can you see me? Can you see the bar? Yes, I can't move. Do you see someone else? Do you know where the others are? What happened? I want to speak to Ma. I want to speak with Mr. Kunimochi. He doesn't work with us anymore. I don't want to play anymore. Please get me out." And after this interaction, PD goes into a church where a sermon has begun, but there is no one there.
Lovely lady dressed in blue, teach me how to pray. God was just your little boy. Tell me what to say. Did you lift him up sometimes, gently on your knee? And do angels' wings make a noise? Can he hear me if I speak low? Does he understand me now? May the blessing of Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy...
Interrupting the sermon leads to this conversation with the father named Pietro. "I shouldn't have taught my secrets to Joseph of Cupertino, and now time flies. The game continues to switch back and forth from the gameplay that's supposed to be a part of the game and the distorted elements that have corrupted the files of the game. There also seems to be something bigger going on, as Matias mentions how if PD is one of the agents that is supposed to help him get out. So as for the theory that I have at this point, it kind of seems like this game was supposed to be some sort of virtual reality game where players could go inside of it. However, things went wrong and the players were never able to escape, and instead of fixing the problem, the game developers decided to just abandon the project completely, leaving all the children inside to rot. The game then switches to the segment where you're flying a plane in a minigame to earn more coins. The minigame, however, is cut short and we can see something very strange happen. What we see are 3 people all walking into this alleyway, being led by Foxo. But when the player tries to go in, the area is blocked. And looking back on the footage from earlier, the people that are walking into this alley consist of Dr. Ni Tao, the person who works on the robotics in town, and the person in front appears to be Aito, who works at the museum. These 2 are the people Foxo told PD to work for at the beginning of the game. So the 3 must have full control of the town, with Foxo being the leader. And when they go into this alleyway, they're most likely going to discuss things that are not to be let out to the public. Given why the player can't enter, but with enough determination, PD is able to glitch inside. And the area in which he finds himself is dark, desolate, and alone. But rather than leaving this place and trying to forget that he even went in, PD ventures further inside and finds statues of wolves surrounding a sigil of one. And then this happens. A very off-putting message appears on screen telling you to turn on the console on March 22nd, 1997. This also seems to be a game over screen, but instead of telling you that you lost, this message takes its place. PD ends up respawning on the outside of the secret meeting place and gets a message that says, "Aren't you hungry? Look to your left. Can you see it? Your needs are human. Satisfy your appetite." And on the ground are a collection of unknown objects, although from the looks of it, it's a pile of ribs, eyeballs, gems, oranges, and pebbles. Although it is heavily implied that these are no ordinary objects, but something far darker. Because as soon as PD partakes in the fruit, he is banished from the gates of heaven, very similar to how Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden after partaking in the forbidden fruit. And the words that flash on screen as soon as PD does this are incredibly dark, and they go as follows. "What have you done? Look at you. You have ruined yourself. Look what you have done. Imbecile, why are you just standing there? Take as many fruits as you can. Quick, time is running out. You know you'll right? If you are up to the neck, why don't you keep going down? Do you have something else other than the consolation of this earth? Take what you can. What are you doing here? Losing time. You're already stained, aren't you? Go on. What difference does it make? Your destiny is sealed." Outside the gates of heaven, a biblically accurate angel guards the gates and forbids you from entering ever again. But PD refuses and tries to get back in, but then this happens. PD is then banished to hell, where he finds Aito suffering the same fate. Exploring this land further, he finds Matias' house, and we can see the robot from earlier hiding behind a tree, cowering in complete fear. And upon entering Matias' house, Matias is nowhere to be found. There are, however, drawings that the boy made while he was trapped here. In Matias' bedroom, there is Christian paraphernalia all over the room, one painting showing an image of, quote, Santa Clemencia, who holds the world in her hand, covered by a tarp that has the number 3 on it. The next image is of Jesus Christ, a painting called the Divine Mercy, and upon looking at the image, this happens. And after this, the video just ends, with the last words on screen being, "Visit me where my body lies." And yeah, that was Valle Verde. It's also pretty funny because I had this exact painting of Jesus in my room when I was a kid, and I was always terrified that what happens in this video would happen when I looked at that painting in the middle of the night. But yeah, be sure to support the creator of the series, Alluvium. I'll have them linked below, and be sure to let me know your thoughts on this video, what you think is truly going on here, and whether or not you want me to cover the second part in this series, which is honestly very good, so I probably will. And as always, huge thank you to all of my channel members, as well as my ultimate tiers, Dredator, Kareem Adiano, Alejandro from the Tower, K-Pop Lover X3, and Knight98. If you want early access to videos, as well as your name right here, it's only $1.99. And yeah, thank you guys so much for the continued support. It really means the world to me. I love you guys so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Love you.